Pokemon Day is a very special day for Pokemon fans, and in just a few weeks we'll be getting a Pokemon Presents talking about the new updates, events, and the upcoming Pokemon games. This year in particular is very special, as it will mark 30 years of the Pokemon franchise, and for the 30th anniversary, I wanted to make a list of the things I'd like to see at the Presents, but also my wishes for Generation 10. I doubt even a few of my wishes will be added, but I'm gonna do this just for fun. So in this video, I'll be listing 50 things we need for Generation 10. So without further ado, let's get started. Adding the Gen 1 to 7 games to the Nintendo Switch. So far on the Nintendo Switch, we were only able to play the Let's Go games, Sword and Shield, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, Legends Arceus, Scarlet and Violet, and Legends EA. But loads of Pokemon fans have been wishing to be able to replay their childhood games on the modern console, as the old Pokemon games have been getting really expensive on eBay, as well as not getting an official release on the Switch. Since Game Freak has released the Gen 1 to 2 games on the 3DS as part of the 20th anniversary back in 2016, I see the 30th anniversary as a perfect opportunity to bring back our childhood games onto the Switch, whether that be as virtual consoles or as part of the Nintendo Switch Online service. Gens 1 to 3 would be easy to have as they are only one screen, but Gen 4 to 7 would be quite difficult to implement as the Switch 1 and 2 do not have a dual screen like the DS family. So my best hope for Nintendo is to maybe make an add-on screen for the DS games or modify the DS games to be able to work on one screen. Black and White remakes. Ever since Generation 3, it's been a tradition for Pokemon to release a remake of the past generation. We got Fire Red and Leaf Green, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So it's a no-brainer to have Gen 5 as the next upcoming remakes. How they do this remake will be quite interesting. Will we get both remakes for Black and White as well as their sequels? Will it be Black and White 3? Or will it be Legends Kyurem? Either way, whatever it is, I just hope they don't mess this remake up like they did with the last remakes. Let's Go Johto. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were released in 2018 as remakes of the Pokemon Yellow games, but also as a way to capitalize off the success of Pokemon Go. It was a very unique twist to the main series games, with Mega Evolution added to the game and changing the way of catching Pokemon to being similar to how it works in Pokemon Go. Some fans have really enjoyed the style of games that they wish for a sequel, with that being the Let's Go Johto games. This would be a great way to revive the Johto games, as the last time we got to explore Johto was 16 years ago. They could even make this game compatible with the original Let's Go games, with us being able to explore the two regions, and who knows, maybe the return of regional forms as well. Pokken Tournament 2. Pokken Tournament is a spin-off Pokemon fighting game released on the Wii U in 2016, which was then also released on the Switch as Pokken Tournament DX in 2017. The game revolves around you playing as one of the Pokemon rosters in the game and facing off against the opponent, kind of like the anime arena fighter games like the Naruto Storm series and Jump Force. It was a great fighting game, and being able to battle Pokemon in an engaging way like the Pokemon anime was a dream come true for us when we were kids. Later on in 2018, we got 2 waves of DLC for the Switch, which gave us more Pokemon to play, as well as additional items and outfits. Sadly, this game hasn't been talked about as of lately, which sucks because it was a great concept for a new type of Pokemon game, and it had so much potential to become a big part of the franchise. So if one day Bandai decides to release a sequel to this game, this could finally revive this game and give it the love it deserves. Bring back the National Dex. The National Dex was an additional Dex upgrade that let you register every Pokemon known to exist prior to the generation you're in. That means you were able to catch every single Pokemon and live to the Pokemon slogan, "Gotta catch 'em all." Sadly, in Generation 7, the National Dex was removed from the game. However, you were still able to catch every single Pokemon in the game, just that the Pokemon outside of the regional Dex weren't registered. And starting with Generation 8, you couldn't even catch every Pokemon, as Game Freak decided that only specific Pokemon onwards would only be able to be available for each respective game. And while yes, modeling all the 1025 Pokemon is more challenging, as you have to give them move animations as well as sleep and other idle animations, it isn't possible and can be done if they do take the time developing their games. In my opinion, if we won't get the National Dex again, at the very least let us have it for Generation 10. I mean, this is the 30th anniversary, and I feel like Gen 10 should feel special because of that. So Game Freak, if you're watching this video, please do it. It would make the Gen 10 games feel so special. Bring back Mega Evolution, Z-Moves, Dynamax, and Terrestrialization. Just like the National Dex, Mega Evolution and Z-Moves were also cut from the upcoming games. That is up until Legends EA, where Mega Evolutions finally return. I think it would be really fun if Gen 10 brought back all the previous game mechanics and have it all in one game. Can you imagine Mega evolving Charizard while it's Terra Fire, Dynamax, and using the Fire Z? That would be quite wild to see play out. While I doubt that we will get all the game mechanics in Gen 10, as Pokemon Champions will be the one carrying that job, I feel like Mega Evolution might make an exception. That's because in Legends Arceus, we got introduced to new Hisuian forms, and those forms were allowed to be transferred into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I feel like it would be dumb of Game Freak not to add the Legends ZA Megas into the new games, as they can very well be implemented into the Gen 10 storyline, and if not, at the very least as a post-game or DLC. Bring back the Battle Frontier. The Battle Frontier was a special Pokemon League introduced in Pokemon Emerald and was added to Pokemon Platinum, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver. It was an area you could access in the post-game, which had several battle facilities that the player can take on, like the Battle Factory, Battle Tower, and the Battle Arena. The Battle Frontier became loved due to adding more difficulty and challenges for the player to take on, adding tons of hours of playable content after the main story. Sadly, ever since then, the Battle Frontier has not returned, and players have been begging for its return. Adding the Battle Frontier for Gen 10 would be really appreciated, as it would mean Pokemon fans can have tons of hours of playable content to enjoy. So let's hope we can see it again. Bring back the Pokemon World Tournament. The Pokemon World Tournament was a place in Pokemon Black and White 2, where you could face off against every single gym leader and champion from Gens 1 to 5. The area also let you face off against these trainers in different battle styles, like single, double, triple, and rotation battles, which made it a lot more fun to play. Seeing this added in Gen 10 would feel like a special tribute to all the Pokemon trainers from the past generation. Imagine them also adding all the Gen 6 to 9 gym leaders and champions as well. I mean, that would feel amazing. If this returns for Gen 10, I think I'll be happy now for what the game will be when it comes out. Bring back the PSS. The player search system was a feature introduced in Generation 6 that allowed players to easily connect with friends and others online for battling or trading. What made the PSS so great is that it was easy and friendly to navigate, as it was right on the second screen of the 3DS, ready to be easily accessed. Though for some reason Game Freak decided to remove it, instead replacing it with the Festival Plaza, which was a way more inconvenient way for connecting with players. And then Generation 8 onwards they made it even worse, as they removed the GTS, which was one of the easiest and best ways to get traded Pokemon easily and quickly, as you could request for a certain Pokemon in exchange of another Pokemon. If the PSS does come back in some way, I'd love to see more online features and quality of life changes added to it to make it even more better than the last. Bring back the unique Pokédex designs. Am I the only one who's tired of having a Rotom phone every time as my Pokédex? When the Rotom Dex was introduced in Generation 7, I thought it was a cool, quirky design for a Pokédex, but ever since we kept getting Rotom as our Pokédex every time, I kinda just got fed up with it. So I'm hoping we return to unique gadgets as our Pokédex. Bring back the EXP share toggle. This thing should have never been considered to be removed in the first place, and I'll never understand why they even removed it. The EXP share was an item that let a Pokemon gain experience points without battling. It was introduced in Generation 1, and in Generation 6, it was changed so that all Pokemon in the player's party would gain EXP points without battling. It was a great way to reduce grinding and making leveling up Pokemon much easier. From Gen 6 to 7, please, don't say. You were able to turn it off if you wanted a more difficult gameplay, but starting with Generation 8, the EXP share would be forced on no matter what. The downside of this is that it made Pokemon games much easier and less of a challenge like they used to in previous gens. The fact that I even have to discuss about this is ridiculous because this should have stayed as a toggle, but I'm hoping this comes back for Generation 10. Bring back the linking cord. In Legends Arceus, we were introduced to the linking cord, an item that made trade evolution Pokemon evolve without trading with a friend. If you had the linking cord, you could just simply use it on any Pokemon that was a trade evolution, and have it evolve as if it was a stone evolution Pokemon. It was simple, loved, and didn't feel grindy. But then again, for some reason, just like the EXP share toggle, Game Freak decided to remove the linking cord for their future Pokemon games. Why do they keep doing this? Game Freak, please bring it back. Bring back the Synchro Machine. The Synchro Machine was an item introduced in Scarlet and Violet that let the player travel from the perspective of their Pokemon. This meant that you could run, swim, fly, and even battle as your Pokemon. It's not like a must return for me, but I want it to return because it was just fun to mess around with. Bring back triple battles, rotation battles, and the battle royale. Single and double battles weren't the only type of Pokemon battles, as back then we had triple, rotation battles, and the battle royale. Triple battles had the trainers send out 3 Pokemon each to face off against each other, which added more challenging to battling. Rotation battles also let you send out 3 Pokemon, but instead had a more of a guessing strategy to it. And the Battle Royale introduced in Generation 7 had 4 trainers face one another simultaneously, kind of like a Fortnite Battle Royale in which the last standing trainer wins. Seeing these battle types return will be amazing, as it would add more variety for trainers to play in competitive. While I don't think this will return for Gen 10, I think they will very likely return for Pokemon Champion, as they will be the place where trainers will play competitive moving forwards. Bring back modeled interiors. Before Generation 9, players were able to go inside the salons, clothes shops, and other buildings while seeing the inside of the building. But starting with Generation 9, the interiors were removed and just led you indirectly to the purchase page. While I do appreciate maximizing the efficiency of buying stuff in the games, I feel at a point that speeding up everything kind of removes the fun of taking things slow. It also just drains the soul of these buildings as they had so much color and vibes to them. So I hope we can get modeled interiors for the upcoming games. Bring back Pokemon Seals. Pokemon Seals are small stickers that are attached to ball capsules, which can then be attached to a Pokeball. This would make special effects whenever the Pokemon comes out. There were tons of different types of seals that the player can choose and customize to their liking, which made Pokeballs feel unique and special. I'd love to see them return to Gen 10, and maybe even get more types of seals added later on. Bring back Pokemon Contests. Pokemon contests were a type of competition in which Pokemon compete by using different moves, and each move had a certain type of condition where the Pokemon would be judged by them to determine which one is the best of its category, and the Pokemon with the highest points would win the competition. Having this added will make for some nice extra content for the player to play in, so I think it'd be great if it were to appear again. Bring back ride Pokemon. Imagine if we had other methods of transportation in Pokemon games, and having every introduced one in one game. Maybe at first I want to use my roller skates, but then later on I could go surf on a Mantine while catching Pokemon in the sea. And for flying, I could hop on a Charizard and fly across the entire region. That would be really fun, and I hope Game Freak gives us more ride Pokemon for the next gen games. Bring back the low HP music from Pokemon Black and White. Am I the only one who wants this to return? I don't know why, but hearing that music whenever my Pokemon HP went low just made me bop my head to the beat. I'd love for it to return, and maybe we can get a toggle to turn it off for the people who don't like it. Bring back Ash Greninja. I hate the way Game Freak has treated my boy Greninja. Those past years they did him dirty. First of all, not returning him in Sword and Shield despite winning Pokemon of the Year, then nerfing his protein ability, and on top of that, completely removing Ash Greninja from both the games and the anime, like they just never even happened. And yes, I am really thankful we got Mega Greninja, and I think his design is sick. But we need to address the elephant in the room. Where's Ash Greninja? Game Freak, please bring him back. Bring back Lucario. Lucario is a character introduced in Pokemon Platinum. He is an international police officer who has appeared in every single Pokemon game onwards, with his last appearance being in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon. Pokemon Legends EA would have been the perfect game to see him return, as it would have been awesome to see him reunite with Emma after so long. Hopefully he returns for Generation 10 as a returning character. Give us Mega Flygon. I don't care how long it takes for Flygon to get a Mega, there was absolutely zero excuse for him not to return in Legends EA. You're telling me Absol, Lucario, and Garchomp got a second Mega, but Flygon can't? Come on, Game Freak. We know you're trolling us, but we won't forget the time you were gonna give him a Mega, but then ditched it altogether. Please, just do it. Bring back proper villains. When I say proper villains, I mean villains who are an organization wanted to take over the world with in-depth backstory, kinda like Ghetsis or Giovanni, and not some annoying or lazy villains like Team Skull or Team Yell. I mean, can you even call Team Yell villains? I'd love to see a return to the Team Insert Name type of villains, which can also be made as a tribute to the original Kanto games for the 30th anniversary. Have an age toggle for the trainer. I'd love for this to be a thing in the Pokemon games. Why do I always have to play as a 10-year-old in every game? Imagine having a toggle where you can play as an adult, or even as an elderly person in the Pokemon games. I think this would add a lot more variety to the trainer customization, so I'd love to see that. Have proper clothing and hair customization. Another wish I have is that we get plenty of clothes and hair customization for Gen 10. I hope they don't do what Scarlet and Violet did by giving us very limited clothing option. And who knows, maybe we'll be able to wear every single clothes and hair from all the past gens into one game. Make TMs infinite like they used to. Before Generation 5, TMs were a one-time use, which meant the players had to think carefully before using one, since if a TM breaks, it was gone. Starting in Generation 5, TMs would become permanent this time, which meant players had an option to teach Pokemon moves without the risk of losing a TM. This feature will stay in Pokemon games up until Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, where TMs reverted to break again. This also stayed in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which made TMs obtainable by crafting them with Pokemon materials. Now, luckily, TMs are back to Infinite in Legends EA, and I'm hoping that they stay that way for Gen 10 onwards. Improve the Pokemon graphics. The Switch-era Pokemon has been criticized for its underwhelming graphics that just don't meet the standards of modern video games. Some examples of this are the tree textures from Sword and Shield, the chibi art style from Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, Legends EA's balconies, and the notorious Scarlet and Violet's graphics, which people have compared to an N64 graphics level. While the bugs and graphics have been fixed on the Switch 2 version of the Gen 9 games, the impact the graphics had on the game really tarnished its reputation. I think it's likely that Gen 10 is going to be the first Switch 2 exclusive Pokemon game, which is great as that means Game Freak will only prioritize their graphics for the Switch 2. Let's just hope they're cooking with this one. Fix following Pokemon. Following Pokemon are one of the most loved features in the Pokemon franchise. Having a Pokemon walk with you on your journey just makes the game so much immersive and personal. Technically, following was introduced in Pokemon Yellow, where the trainer can have a following partner Pikachu walk with them. But Heart Gold and Soul Silver's following Pokemon is where the feature peaked. Each Pokemon had a model that was able to follow you, and it felt truly amazing at the time this feature came out, since now you can have any Pokemon follow you. Ever since Sword and Shield, however, is when the feature got implemented pretty badly. Most Pokemon just couldn't keep up with the trainer's speed, which made them vanish and respawn every time, which just didn't make it look immersive. One way they can fix this issue is to make sure each Pokemon is able to catch up with the trainer. The Let's Go games did this perfectly, and honestly it should be where Game Freak take inspiration to when implementing it for Generation 10. Fix the Pokemon models. One of the biggest criticisms of the 3D Pokemon models is that they feel lifeless and reused, unlike back in the 2D era where each Pokemon sprite had so much character in them. And personally, I don't think the 3D models are the problem, it's just about the lack of development put into the model animations. There are loads of 3D games out there where the characters have so much life in them. Game Freak can make really stunning 3D games. Just take a look at Beast of Reincarnation, one of their upcoming video game titles. They can make good games, they just need to lock in, that's all. Fix shiny Pokemon. Shiny Pokemon are some of the most exciting things to encounter in Pokemon games. They are Pokemon with different coloration to what it originally looks like, and are very rare to find. Some Pokemon have amazing shinies like Rayquaza, Gyarados, and Luxray. And then there are some awful shinies such as shiny Garchomp. Now, sometimes Game Freak actually does fix certain shiny Pokemon, such as shiny Charizard, who used to look like Barney the dinosaur until he got changed to black in Generation 3. I'd love to see more shiny fixes for Gen 10, and Garchomp is definitely the first thing we all want to be changed first. Fix the Pokemon battle animations. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were known for butchering so much move animations. Just take a look at Zacian's signature move from Sword and Shield compared to the one in Scarlet and Violet. Legends Arceus and Legends EA perfected the battle animation, making them cinematic yet intact with the Pokemon world environment it's set in. So I think this should be where they focus on when making the animations. Have properly scaled Pokemon. There are loads of Pokemon who just aren't properly scaled to what their true size are, like Gyarados, who's supposed to be a huge tall monster, but is just slightly taller than the trainer. While it might not be easy to scale every Pokemon to their exact lore accurate height, at the very least, make the size convincing. Stop shiny locking Pokemon. Seriously, this needs to be stopped. There's no point in shiny locking a Pokemon if it will eventually be released as a shiny later on. It's just annoying. Stop having mythicals for limited time. While I understand that mythical Pokemon are supposed to be really rare, I don't like the fact that they are set to be forever unobtainable after a limited time. The best way to do this is either release them in the new games, or do it the way the Scarlet and Violet games did with Pekaron and let us go through a special cutscene to encounter them. Have voice acting. This is a big wanted feature by Pokemon fans. Having voice acting would make the game so much better as we can be more connected with the trainers we encounter along the way. It would also make the cutscenes less awkward, and the thing is, it doesn't even have to be full voice lines, but even simple grunts or short lines would make such a big improvement to the games. You're telling me Roxy from the DS has voice lines, but Piers has to sing awkwardly on the Switch? I mean, take a look at this. Give us proper post-game. I think the move from third version games to DLC was such a great idea, but that doesn't mean the post-game should be only locked for DLC content only. I think the base game should still have decent post-game just like we had before the Switch era. Pokemon Auras and the Ultra games had great post-games where we got an entire arc, so having some decent content after the main story would be really appreciated. Give us a difficulty option. Why is this not an option yet? Lots of Pokemon fans nowadays aren't kids anymore who would really appreciate an option to have a more difficult playthrough. They should do what Pokemon Black and White 2 did with their difficulty option, and let players choose the difficulty from the very start of the game. This would mean everyone can enjoy the Pokemon games at any rate, and difficulty enthusiasts would really appreciate the difficulty. Give us a Nuzlocke mode. I think this would be so much fun to play. Imagine a Nuzlocke mode or even a randomizer mode in an official Pokemon game. I doubt this would ever be a thing, but it would be amazing to have. Let us explore every region. Imagine if we could explore every Pokemon region in one game, just like what they did with Johto games, where we also get to explore the Kanto region. You would face every single gym leader, every champion, and every Pokemon to exist. This wouldn't be an easy task though, and would probably take a very long time to develop such a game, but I'm hoping this becomes a thing for the 30th anniversary, or at the very least sometime in the future of Pokemon. Give us routes and different endings based on the player's decision. I'd love to have a choice that would impact the game route, kinda like in visual novels. Imagine we get a cutscene where we lose to the champion, or maybe we can see our rival finally beat us. Maybe we can even see the villain winning and taking over the world. I think this would make the game even more fun and interesting to play. Let us catch Pokemon like in Legends Arceus and ZA. When we were able to finally catch Pokemon by directly throwing the balls without battling, it felt like I was an actual Pokemon trainer from the Pokemon anime. This can also be said about being able to roll, duck, and taking fall damage. It just made Pokemon more realistic. I don't understand why we couldn't do this in Scarlet and Violet, but I hope we get this option again for Gen 10. Add more scenery in open world areas. Switching from linear paths to open world was one of the best changes to Pokemon, as now we had the freedom to walk anywhere we wanted. While I do appreciate the change, I feel like the open world lacks a lot of things to do. Most of the NPCs in the game are just standing there doing nothing, as well as the wild areas lacking in movement. I'd love to see Pokemon interacting more in their environment. Maybe we could see two Raichus with their kid Pikachus and Pichus, and we could also see NPCs doing the same thing as well, with them maybe even coming up to you to talk to you themselves. It's really just about having the place engaged and feeling like I'm doing something there. Let us defeat the gym leaders in any order again. Scarlet and Violet did this perfectly. Being able to choose any gym leader to fight meant that you weren't forced to play a certain way. This time for Gen 10, they could even have the gym leader's level scale to you depending on your Pokemon's level, kinda like how they did with the Sword and Shield DLC. Let us give our Pokemon accessories. Being able to give your Pokemon a hat or collar would really make having a Pokemon feel even more like a real-life pet. They could do it like they did with Pokemon Unite and have Pokemon different style clothes. I would love to have a Greninja dressed up in the practice style outfit when walking with me. So Game Freak, please make it happen. Give older Pokemon new evolutions. This will probably happen for Gen 10, but I'd love to see older Pokemon who haven't received any love get some new evolutions. Some of them being Delibird, Chatot, Lovedisk, and Maractus, who I think would really benefit getting a new form to give them another chance in competitive. New regional forms. Just like new evolutions, I'm certain that we'll be getting new regional forms for some Pokemon. Having new regional forms can give some older Pokemon a chance in competitive, kinda like how Hisuian Samurott became a popular option in OU. Some Pokemon I'd like to see get in regional forms are the Ferret line, Luxray line, and the Haxorus line. New convergent species. Convergent species were a great unique twist to Pokemon forms, as they weren't even related to the Pokemon they resemble. It's kind of a shame we only got 4 convergent species for Gen 9, but I hope we get more for Gen 10. New baby Pokemon. Hot take, but I kinda miss when Pokemon would give pre-evolutions to older Pokemon. I mean, sure, they were a waste for the dex, as they were never good to use on your journey, but I felt they added a lot more variety and made awkward looking Pokemon have a stage before them. Like, take Electabuzz and Magmar, they just don't look like first stage Pokemon, so them getting their pre-evolutions kinda filled that weird empty gap they had. Maybe we can get a pre-evolution of Tauros and Miltank who is able to evolve into either of them. As to be honest, these two Pokemon kinda look related. I mean, their Pokédex for Sun and Moon has them both on the same page, so this could finally fix the gap. Buff older Pokemon. Whether that's increasing an older Pokemon's stat, giving them access to new moves they couldn't get, or giving them new abilities, I just want to see Luxray finally be usable and competitive. And finally, number 50. Make this generation feel like a proper anniversary and a send-off to the legacy of Pokemon. This is Generation 10, and to me, I feel like this number has a special meaning, as, well, It marks 10 generations of Pokemon. It's also aligned with the 30th anniversary of Pokemon, so I really want this game to feel different from other Pokemon games. I want it to be a memorable game that many people will look back fondly on and say, this was the day Pokemon peaked. Seeing Pokemon delay Legends ZA's release by an extra year kind of gave me hope for the direction Pokemon's going for. This could be the time Game Freak finally prioritizes the quality of their games instead of releasing a new game every year. And I think this is a step in the right direction for Pokemon, and hopefully they decide to spend even longer in developing their games for the upcoming future generations for Pokemon. Well, that's pretty much my list of hopes and wishes for Gen 10, and of course this is all my opinion, but if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel as it really helps me out. Be sure to hype this video, follow my socials, and leave a comment down below of what you wish to see for Gen 10. And with that out of the way, I'll see you guys next time.